Welcome, welcome, welcome. To the daily grind. Luke, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm on coffee number 2 or 3 already.
Hmm. I'm
So
on.
I'm
I
good.
don't know how that's possible. You must wake up super early. Do you wake up earlier than I do?
I get up at 6
Oh
every day.
shit. Yeah, I wake up at like 8 o'clock. Get my kids to school, get a cup of coffee, and come to the show. And so that is my life. I am not. I'm not a I'm not a morning person,
Yeah.
but I typically wake up at the same time every morning, no matter if it's the weekend or not. And so I have a very hard time like sleeping in if I get a chance. So I'm
Yeah.
up usually at 7:30 or 7:45, 8 at the latest, like every day, no matter what. So um I don't have a job that requires me to get up early, which is good. I'm not because I'm not a morning person, but I don't super love waking up super early. Like
Yeah.
eight
It's
o'clock
like
is a
if
perfect time. It's early enough, I feel like I'm not wasting my day. I can get
yeah.
things accomplished before noon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now my wife on the end, she's asleep in her. My whole
Is she?
family is. All the kids are. She's like taught them to be sleeping. Like the weekends, it's me for like 2 hours by myself, which is great, I guess. But
Yeah.
um,
I don't know how
yeah.
people sleep in, man. I can't do it anymore. Like if I
I
sleep
mean,
past
she
9,
loves it. She loves it. I mean,
like
she'd sleep till noon if I'd let her. I mean, I'll let her. I don't really care. But sometimes I'm like, hey, we have something to do. Like you have to get up, like whatever. But
it's time to get up.
I think she wakes up at like 10 o'clock and usually during the day. I mean, she's also like stays up super late too. Though
Yeah.
she goes to bed at like 2,
Ooh,
3. Yeah,
gross.
she's like a super late night owl. I'm not that guy. I'm in bed.
No.
I'm asleep by like 11:30 at the latest,
Yeah.
maybe
Like
11.
midnight's about it for me.
Yeah, I can't stay up. I mean, if I pass past midnight, things have gone either great or horribly
Or terribly
wrong.
wrong.
It's like like we're like partying and I'm staying up late, but I can't stay up. I'm too old for that.
Yeah,
Too
I
old for
hurt.
that, Luke. Yeah. Let's do a show today. Let's talk about
Yeah.
these Memphis Grizzlies who are, okay-ish. I guess.
Not the worst
Actually,
team
they're
in the
not.
league.
They're technically not the worst team in the league. They're not. They are not. They are like 3 teams worse than them. So I
Yeah.
looked at that yesterday. I was surprised. I was like, oh, that's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the rundown today, the scenario, the season best case scenario. From here going forward, we're all going to do the worst case scenario, and then we're gonna talk about how we would fix this team in our last segment of the show. The best case scenario for this team so far this year. Well, I mean, a lot of this comes down to math, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of where we're at right now. What's your best case scenario for this team going forward until the end of the year?
I mean, it's like you said, I would need to sit down and actually do the math, but I doubt there's any way we get higher than the 7th seed. I feel like that would be our peak. Um, I just think the play-in is most likely our destination if everything starts to go to plan once Ja comes back. Before then, even. But I doubt that we can even physically get higher than that. But like I said, I don't know. But
Well, right now the Grizzlies are 5 games out of the 10th seed. The 7th seed, they're still technically 5 games. The 7th seed is 8-6, so they're technically 5 games out of the 8th seed as well. The Lakers have just played more games than most people, so they have 10
yeah,
wins, but they have 8 losses, so they're lower in the standings. So they're technically, 7 games out of the 8th seed and 5 games out of the 7th seed. As weird as that sounds. But either way, they're still 5 games out of the 10th seed. It's a lot of games. Especially when you still would have 9 games to go before Ja returns, and it doesn't look like you're going to win anything. Like at this point, it doesn't look like you're going to win any game. So, I mean, these teams ahead of you, Golden State, New Orleans, Los Angeles Lakers, the Rockets, Sacramento, even the Clippers, they're all going to be winning games regardless. They're going to be winning some games. They're going to be winning none games. They're going to be winning some games. And the space is just all going to get. I mean, it's going to get further and further apart. The further along you, I mean, 25 games in the season is a lot of the season. Like that. People are like, oh, go back and have a you're ready to go. But 25 games is a lot of the games. And
almost a third.
You can look up and be 10 games out once Ja gets back pretty easily, I think. If not, at the very least, 8 games out of one of those bottom seeds. And that is a lot of ground to make up. Now, that's not saying that one of those teams, 8, 9, 10, and even 7, goes on a losing streak of their own of 5, 6, 7 games. But you have to win at an extraordinary rate once Ja returns.
Yeah.
And that's something I just don't think they can do.
Not unless everybody else comes back at their optimal ability, like not unless Kennard comes back and is shooting like he was, Smart comes back and is playing like a defense player of the year caliber guard. Like we're going to need all of the things to happen, I think. And that's just a very small possibility, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get healthy for sure. I mean, that's number one, right? Like this doesn't happen without getting healthy. And even then, I think that there are a lot of problems with this team.
Yeah.
And again, some of that might be solved with a full roster. I don't know. We haven't seen a full roster at any point this season, so I have no idea what the team looks like. None of us do. So it's very hard to say what they will or won't be, just because we don't know. And so, I think if you're going to get into the play-in, and I think that is the best case scenario. I think you're right. I think the play-in is the best, I think the 10 seed is the best case scenario for them. That I really do at this point, just mathematically, just because, again, you have to win it at a rate that is pretty high, something you haven't shown you can do yet. And we just don't know what the team's going to look like, even at full strength. Like even all these pieces they just got, with Ja and Marcus Smart and Luke and all the pieces together. We just don't know what they look like yet. I think that is the not issue, but ultimate, like, what if, and it could be great. I just don't know. So sitting here doing the math, I think, again, the 10 seed is your best case scenario. But even then, I think you're going to have a lot of work to do just because they put themselves in such a big hole.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you're going to have to go on a run to get that 10 seed at some point. And the only way you go on a run is if you can get buckets. And this team has not shown that they are very good offensively so far. So, like, do you even trust them to do that? It's like, I don't know. It's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, I mean, again, the offensive problems, I think, get solved with Ja. Well, with health. I'm going to rephrase it. I think they get solved with health. And so I think that you can get your players back that are capable of producing, and that can be solved with health. The defensive positioning, the other issues, I don't know if that gets solved with Ja coming back. And I think there are a lot of other questions that I just don't know if it gets solved with health. I think I think those are the questions, right?
Yeah.
So I do personally think that the offensive woes of like not scoring the basketball, and then, obviously that's been their biggest problem. So maybe, maybe I'm talking myself into this live on this show, but that's been their biggest issue is offensive problems. Is scoring the basketball. So maybe if Ja comes back, they not Ja, but everybody comes back. They are able to go on a streak. Like you said, they have to go 5-game win streaks at a time, even more than that, 8-game win streaks at a time, where they're not losing games, losing games at a very little rate. Like the record after Ja comes back in the next 25 games is gonna have to be like 20 and 5. Like it will have to be a team that's taken a 180-degree turn, and I just don't know about that. I don't know.
It's asking a lot.
Yeah, this might be the year they miss the playoffs.
Man,
this might be it. That's tough. But again, they put themselves in such a hole to start the year, and I think that's the issue. Is that now you're like a week ago, like 2 week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh, we're all still only like 2 games out of the 10 seed because we only had 2 wins, and we just hadn't played that many games yet, right? They'd only played 10 games or 8 games or whatever it was, and now you played a lot more, and you're 3-14 or 3-13, and you need more wins than 3. So,
man, even if we could get those first 6 games back where we went 0-6 and win 2 of those, that changes things, you know.
Again, if you found if there's 9 games left in Jockers back, you found a way to win 3 of those, that would help your case a lot.
That would help a long way.
So, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back on the other side. We'll talk about the worst case scenario for the Grizzlies, and we kind of hinted at it a little bit, and that might be what it is.
I am highly upset, man.
Oh, man.
ESPN, you dastardly dogs you. Last week had us feeling good. They picked the Grizzlies to be first in the West with about 48.5 wins. And what a difference a few days makes.
What a difference.
You put out your list of the top 100 players in the NBA. Desmond Bane jumps in at 61. Jaren Jackson Jr. comes in at number 31. Jaren's top 25 to me, but if you all right, whatever. I think that's a little slight to Jaren. Desmond Bane's is disgusting, in my opinion. Then we get Ja Morant, All-NBA player, 2-time All-Star, one of the most dynamic offensively players in the NBA, Ja Morant. That guy was number 35 on their list, Kenny Stubblefield. The same people that said the Grizzlies will be the first team in the West. They're going to get that done with just some regular dudes.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Just curious, you kind of talked about the transfers and things like that. How has that changed your mindset from a roster management standpoint? Like, incredible recruiter. All the classes, I think we had 2 back-to-back and 21 and 22 top classes. How does that change with the transfer portal? Do you start focusing more on upperclassmen? Do you kind of get away from the younger freshmen? How does that work?
Yeah, so I still believe in our coaching staff and the way we do things and developing guys. And that I will never get away from that philosophy. We're still going to recruit a high school class. Now, there's a lot of colleges out there that say, screw this. We're pushing all the chips in on this roster, win right now, and we'll figure it out. Sure. And if it doesn't, right, it implodes and bad things happen. But I think you still have to bring in true freshmen and develop them and see what they can become. And that I'll never waver from that. But the portal certainly changed things.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the Daily Grind, a daily show talking about the Memphis Grizzlies every single day with myself and Luke right here on Bluff City Media. Speaking of Bluff City Media, now is the time of the show, shameless promotion time. It's time to become a Bluff City Media insider. It's time. It's been time, guys. If you are not one, you are missing out thoroughly. You get all access to our Discord, which pops off in there all the time. You get access to our merchandise. You get 20% off of our merchandise. You get access to the stuff earlier than other people. So when other people have seen it online, you've seen it a week before that. Have your chance of getting stuff. So plenty of options, plenty of ideas, or plenty of things to do as an insider, and things you get. We get access to watch parties early. Usually when we have watch parties, you get free beers. I mean, you know, it's as easy as that. The watch party,
fantasy football group. That's
fantasy football group. That's fun too. Yeah, the free beers at the watch parties pay for the insider subscription at least, 6 times a year. So go get that. It's $5 a month. It's super easy, super fun, and we appreciate it supporting this group so that we can continue to do shows like this. So if you can't pay the money, the $5, just at least go drop a subscribe on the YouTube page. That's where we get a little bit of cash as well. Keeps this company afloat. So that I know this is going to shock you guys, but we don't get paid to do this. So let's keep this company afloat so that we can continue to do some of these shows that we do right here on Bluff City Media. So I appreciate you guys' support so far throughout the year. I know people have blown Bluff City Media up and continue to do so throughout the coming year. So let's get back to the show. Worst case scenario for the Grizzlies. I kind of hinted at it. I think the worst case scenario is they just lose at the rate they're losing now.
Yeah. And
they have a top 5 draft pick next year.
I
guess that's worst best, right? Like if the worst case scenario is always can always lead to good things, right? The best case scenario, I think you get bumped in the first round of playoffs and you have a kind of a crappy draft pick anyway. The worst case scenario, at least there's some silver lining, like light at the end of the tunnel.
But I don't want another top 5 draft pick. I just like, I'd rather trade it. I'd rather trade that pick or something.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Right. I mean, at least at this point, you know, you're going to have a pick, whether you want to trade that or not. I don't think they'll trade it. That's why I don't want them to have it, because I think they'll just take the pick. They are enamored. Kleiman and companies enamored with draft picks. They're enamored with the idea of the young person on the young rookie contract and fitting those in. And to be clear, as a small market, that's really all you can make a team that's as good as, we saw back in the Oklahoma City Thunder days. It was because they had, drafted really well several years in a row. And when those guys were hitting their, hitting their big contracts, they were still getting those draft picks and had other people on the team that kind of fit around them in a very small number. And the Grizzlies hope to do that. They just did not do that. So yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, you're getting a big draft pick. I'm not necessarily a big fan of them taking another pick.
Who's good in this draft? Like,
even if they do, they're gonna have to get rid of a lot of the guys they already have, because there's no room to develop those players. There's no room to get minutes right now. So, but worst case scenario, I think the worst case scenario is they finish, they continue to. I will say, when Ja comes back, I do not think they'll lose at the rate they're losing at. I think he changes things. He adds 30 points a game, off the bat, and that means a lot when you are this team. Now it takes some shots away from other people, so maybe you're actually in a net plus 15 is what you're looking at, maybe in terms of points. So what he's adding. I still don't think look at that's a difference in a lot of these games. A lot of the games before this previous week and Thanksgiving week, they were losing them pretty close, right?
Yeah.
This week was a different week, and they got blown out, which is a different. We talked about that yesterday. But I don't know. I don't know where you're at. What's your worst case scenario?
The only thing that would make it worse is if we kept losing and they had to fire TJ. I don't want to fire TJ, but if we keep losing and we make it 2/3 of the way through the season and we still have 5 wins, I think you have to do something. And then I don't know who the hell you get to replace him. I have no idea.
That's the tough spot. I mean, if you fire Taylor, you make changes, so to speak. What are that's always what you have. And the same thing we talk about with trades a lot of, right? Like, it's not just, do I make the trade? It's, does anybody want to make the trade with me? Who can I make the trade for? Like, does it work, financially? I think those are a lot of things that people don't even look at, think about when they get on the trade machine. And that's fun to be on the trade machine. It's fun to dream, and that's a little bit of the coaches too. If you fire Taylor, what do you do? What do you do to replace him? What's your option out there? What's the if someone like Tyloo got fired and he was available, then maybe you think about some guys like that. But I can't imagine there's a lot of coaches that are readily available. I'm sure there's some coaches there, some assistants who are very good on benches that we just don't know about because we don't keep up with assistants in the NBA at that level. And I'm sure that exists, right? I mean, obviously Jenkins was. So, I mean, I'm sure there are guys like that, but it's like, do you want to start over with a rookie head coach? Is a rookie head coach better than Taylor Jenkins? Do you want to start over with that? Are you better just biding your time until the offseason where there's going to be a kind of a coaching carousel? There's some guys get let go, whatever, or you maybe want to go pick up a more experienced head coach you already have a more experienced roster now at this point. It's no longer like, or it was like we had a rookie head coach and young guys and everybody was kind of growing together. And now you get to the point where you look it up and those guys are 4 or 5 years in and you need to win, you need to start producing.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting crossroads for the Grizzlies for sure. It's just something that, I don't know what they could do, but again, we're getting a little off topic, but worst case scenario, again, I think the worst case scenario for them is they continue to lose at the rate or pretty close to the rate they're losing at, and they end up with the top 5 pick next year, which is not honestly out of the question. I know that you could say that for any team. Well, the worst case scenario is they just lose a bunch of games, but I don't think that's unrealistic for this team to do.
No, not based on what we've seen through these first 15 games. Not at all.
Yeah, it's tough. I think for a lot of teams, you think that's unrealistic. I don't think it is for this team. Let's take another quick break. We'll be right back. We will talk about fixing the team, what we would do to make this team a little better.
Seth Hennigan just still. He
Doesn't look himself.
He just doesn't, in the big moments, he's not making the plays that have to be made. If you look at the raw stats, they're not terrible, but the 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
And he fumbled twice. They didn't lose those fumbles, but 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions, one of them coming at a terrible time on a 4th down late in the game when Memphis really needed to put points on the board. But I just don't think Seth is playing well enough to elevate this team.
Right.
I think he's playing well enough for Memphis to be fine. But as far as for them to do something special and to elevate this team, he's just not playing like that.
Tune in to On the Bluff with Christian Fowler and Gabe Kuhn every Tuesday at 12 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Kenny, there are certain guys in the NBA that are enigmatic players. They're going to be appealing to a large fan base. But when you have guys like that who, like John Morant, who have off-court issues he's had, Kyrie Irving has had the things he's had, the NBA doesn't particularly like the fact that those guys are larger than life. If I'm the NBA, if I'm ESPN, who of course are working together on all this stuff, I'm going to start telling you who you need to like. And it's going to be a different type of guy to kind of play off of the guys that are going to be there anyway. Let me put these squeaky clean image guys that we want to put in front of you up there as well to kind of counteract some of the stuff we get with the guys that we don't have any control out of. So let me put the Tyrese Halliburtons in front of you. Let me put the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders in front of you, the Josh Giddeys. Let me force these guys in front of you, not particularly on national television games, but let me just kind of create these little sub agendas with these guys to kind of make them those second tier stars that we're gonna like put out in front as well. Like, they're doing this on purpose, man. Like, if anybody can't see this, like, come on, man. Do not sit there and tell me that you really think that Tyrese Halliburton is a top 20 player in the NBA.
Tune in to The Anthony Sane Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the Daily Grind, a daily Memphis Grizzlies show right here on Bluff City Media, where we talk to you guys every single day right at 9 o'clock in the morning, live every single day. Let's talk about what we would do to fix this team. 3 moves or less. You go first.
So I'm going to stay simple. I'm just going to call one team, and it's like you said earlier, this is trades are fun. This is assuming that I could get whatever I wanted, like there's no red flags or anything. I would call the Bulls and I would do Steve-O, Brandon Clark, Zaire, and Jake, and a couple first for DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso.
Wow. You're just one move and you're done.
Yeah.
You said Steve-O,
BC, Zaire, and
Jake. Who they're going to say, please don't send us Jake. But I get it.
I guess it just depends on how willing they are to blow it up too. Because in my mind, they want whoever.
That's a lot, but who's your center?
For this year, it's Biz.
Long term? We're just about trying to fix it this year. Long term, we don't know.
Yeah. T-Man, God,
I like this idea, but you're gonna have real problems on your front court. You're taking 2 out of your front court, and so you're gonna have to use 2 of those other 3 moves to go sign a front court player in your off season, I think. And you're using that. Maybe you use that mid-level exception in your off season, and so
for like an Isaiah Hartenstein or something.
Yeah, there's gonna be somebody available for sure.
Yeah,
that's and again, maybe Biz is not your answer long term, but obviously he could be serviceable this year. Yeah, I think the Bulls probably say no to that. Only because I think there's I think the value for them is Zaire. There's no value there for Brandon Clark. There's no value there for Steven Adams. Excuse me. Just because you don't know what those guys are going to be injury wise, I think they're a negative kind of value contract at the moment. That might change next year, but yeah, it definitely helps them in their race to the bottom if that's what they're looking to do. Yeah. So yeah, like you said, it just really depends on what their goal is. I'm with you though. If you could find a way to go get DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso, go do it. Like,
Yeah.
And then your second move could be you're going to waive Kenny Lofton Jr. You're going to waive, Jake's already gone, but you're going to waive all those other guys. You waive John Conchar,
waive Jitty or something.
Yeah, just makes it more roster space because I guess you're not going to have to. If you're saying 4 for 2.
Yeah, 4 for 2.
I think that you don't see a lot of those big trades. I think you're most likely now. I think I think if you put in like those 2 first and Zaire and Luke, or Zaire and Jake.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you dropped BC or dropped Steven Adams and left BC in there, I think you could get DeMar DeRozan for those 3 guys and maybe even just 1 first, or maybe a first and a second.
Yeah, I tossed Caruso on at the end just because I like him. You know, I
do too. I love Alex Caruso. I just don't know. Those big trades get hard to do in real life. I don't know if he would, but I would love to have Alex Caruso. I mean, if they said, hey, we want to do that trade, I would do that trade tomorrow. I will drive Jake and Zaire up into Chicago myself and in my car. I'll drive to the airport, buy them lunch, whatever they want.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I were the Grizzlies again, I think that I would probably break it up into smaller trades. If I were them, I would look, and I don't have anybody specific, in mind. I just think this is what they need to do in terms of look for. They need to go find, that secondary playmaker off of the bench. Like we talked about before, like a Tim Hardaway Jr. and not him, he's not available, but someone like that who can get buckets off the bench. That is a playmaker. You pair that person with Santi, and Luke, and I think you can get some of those type of players, those 6-man, 7-man. They're still a wing that create. You're looking for like a lesser, a poor man's Desmond Bane, someone like that. I think those people can be available for Derrick Roses, and the Derrick Roses and Jake Larry's paired together, or the Zaire and first paired together, maybe a little bit more. I think that's one move you probably need to make. Again, I think your front court is a issue. If you want to make something that happen right away, but I don't know. Again, the problem with front court guys is they're gonna if people are sitting out a front court guy, they typically want a front court guy back because those are hard to replace. And so the issue with that is you get into a situation where again you're sitting a Steven Adams and they're sitting back something, and Steven Adams is basically nothing to them this year. So that's kind of it's a negative value, where that negative value only has value in terms of like teams that are not competing. Because you're not going to send them to a competing team because they're not going to want them. And so, I think that would be hard to address. But if I'm the Grizzlies, I am looking at 10-day guys. I'm probably going to waive. Go ahead. I'd probably waive Lofton. You're going to have to waive Lofton, obviously, to fit Bismack Biyombo in the team once Ja comes back. So probably waiving Lofton, waiving if I have to waive, probably John Conchar. I'll probably waive John Conchar. For some 10-day guys, or maybe some free agent signs throughout the year, things like that. I mean, I just don't know. I would love to take a big swing. I didn't know that was our homework assignment. I would have come with a big swing. But looking at someone like the Pistons, and
like an Alex Burks.
And Alex Burke, I mean, the Pistons. I mean, if you look at the Pistons roster, they've got quite a good player, quite a good collection of players. I'm just looking at teams.
A bunch of bigs too, man. You got a lot of bigs on that roster.
A lot of bigs. If I were them, I mean, I'm looking at, I mean, James Wiseman sucks, but like a lot of bigs that are pretty good. Maybe I'm calling the Pistons to do something. But if you're talking about big swings, the only like bad team that's got, even remotely kind of big players left is Toronto, which they're 11th, which is whatever, right? Well, what's Toronto going to do with their guys? What are they going to do as a team? Chicago, like you mentioned already, and Utah. And again, Utah and Toronto are in those spots where they're 11 and 12. It's like, well, what are you really going to do? And Portland still got some good players. Portland's also pretty bad. They still have Robert Williams. They
Jeremy Grant
with him. They had Jeremy Grant. I would love if I could pry DeAndre Ayton off their hands, I would. I'm not. You can't. But I think if I would try. You put DeAndre Ayton. I would try to send out. That we're talking about front court for bad front court of Steedham Adams, Brandon Clark, and a first, stuff like that. Man, if I could get DeAndre Ayton, his contract is crazy. He's almost on a max deal, I think.
Stupid.
But you put DeAndre Ayton and Jaren Jackson Jr. together, I think that's a winning combination.
I agree.
For sure. That's an upgrade I'd make in a heartbeat. They still got Jeremiah Grant. I don't think they're going to – I think Jeremiah Grant, Robert Williams, Matisse Thybulle, those are probably the only guys you're probably going to get off of them.
I like Matisse. Matisse is a good player.
I got Malcolm Brogdon too. They trade Malcolm Brogdon. He'd be gettable. He's up there on age. He's a veteran.
6th man of the year last year.
Yeah, I mean, those are the type of guys that I would think I would probably go after if I'm trying to swing big and make a good, a type of move that makes me a lot better. I would probably call Chicago, like you said. I would call Portland. I call Toronto. Those two teams would be the teams that I'm talking to almost all the time. Let's get something done. We've got a lot of assets. If you want to be bad, again, Portland with Toronto and like Utah, it depends on how bad they want to be.
Yeah,
because they're right on the edge of the play-in right now. Are they blowing it up or not? Same thing for like you mentioned for Chicago. Like, what do they want to do? I think your most likely candidates though for trade partners are Portland and Chicago. I think those are your most likely candidates because we've seen like Chicago is just bad. Yeah, they are probably, if I had to guess of teams that are blowing it up this year, Chicago's going to be the one that is the biggest mover. But again, Portland still got some pieces, and they've shown that. I mean, they traded Damian Lillard, so they are rebuilding. That was the official signal. Hey, we are done here, and we're rebuilding. So, those are the type of guys I'm looking at. Again, Toronto, I just don't know what they're going to do.
And it's hard to read that like that. What's his name? Ujiri. Like, good luck reading him. He keeps his cards so close to the chest. Yeah,
I mean, obviously Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, those are guys you definitely would be asking about. But Pascal Siakam, he's 29. Maybe they view him as a guy that they want to move off of. He's only 29.
Damn.
But in terms of the NBA, that's old. That's the up. Getting up there in terms of veteran. People always talk about that. Steven Adams is old. He's like 29. He's not that old. He just looks like a big burly old man.
Yeah. He looks like he's 40.
OG Anunoby is in his prime. He's in 26. So obviously, if we're still trying to go get at that forward comp, I mean, OG Anunoby is your first call. I think if that's still the comp, if that's still the the idea behind it is getting him off your, getting him onto your roster. I think him. I would say him, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan. Maybe those are the best players you could possibly get on bad teams. And after that, the teams above that is like, it's just, what do you have that they want that makes them, they're going to be looking for players that make them better. They don't want assets, right? That's the problem you run into, is that you don't got a lot of players you can trade that's going to make people better, that people are going to want.
Santi, maybe.
Santi Aldama, which I just don't, I think they traded Santi. I think that would be a mistake. They would have to have something seriously good coming back to trade Santi. He's 22 on a great contract and is very good.
Yes.
Luke Kennard, he's a valuable piece. People would actually take him, that they deem as an upgrade. But again, that's like a little like, you trade Luke Kennard to your second bet, your best shooter. You're probably, second best playmaker in terms of behind the 3-point line next to Dez. What do you get in return? Is that, like, that's just like one of those things. Like, are you trading just to make a trade? Does it even make sense? So the teams of the teams above us that are looking to make a trade that again want assets to make yourself better. I just don't know what you have to offer them. Marcus Smart, you could do that, right? They're not going to do that because they want to see what they have with Marcus. They made us trade for Marcus Smart.
Yes,
they think they can be a part of this team, and so they're not going to just dump him. So. As of right now, again, you got to be looking at the bottom tier teams because all you have really is assets, and that's what those bottom tier teams are going to want is assets. And again, it depends on what that team wants to do. Do they want to be bad? They want to try? They're ready to blow it up. But that's what I would do. I mean, if I were you, I mean, I know I didn't give you any moves at all, so I didn't answer your question at all. I did not do the homework assignment. But
hey,
if I was
always learning, always.
if I was making moves, that's something. Those are the kind of guys and kind of people I would look at, kind of teams I would go after, because that's what they're going to have to do. That's the only option at this point. So, any more thoughts before we get out of here for the day?
No. Excited for a game we might win tomorrow. Kind of excited about that.
We'll talk about the Utah Jazz preview tomorrow. Yeah. I will not be here the rest of the week because I have some work obligations, as many of you are probably be surprised to find this is not my real job. I do have a job that I have to do the rest of the week, and I'll be out of town for that. So Luke will be, I might try to be back on Friday, but Luke will be guiding you the rest of the week. So we'll have the Utah preview tomorrow, talk about that game that we might win. And maybe we'll talk. Maybe the next time I see you, we'll be talking about a W. Maybe
God, I hope so. I hope so.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
That would be
all right,
sick.
Man. We will see you guys later.